Tonight, Novak Djokovic back in immigration detention. The world number one making a last-ditch legal shot to overturn his visa cancellation. Australian Open stars weigh in on the saga that's overshadowing the tournament. Protests at home and in Serbia. The eyes of the planet on Melbourne. Special live coverage across the city. Also, dancing in defiance of COVID restrictions as health officials discuss the prospect of a fourth vaccine dose. Tributes for a mother and daughter stabbed to death in Melbourne's north. And the Aussies all out for 303. England's turn to bat on Hobart's green pitch.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Blake Johnson starts now.
Good evening. World number one tennis player Novak Djokovic is back in detention tonight as he prepares for the biggest off-court battle of his career. Tomorrow, his legal team makes a last-ditch attempt to overturn his visa cancellation and stop him being deported on the eve of the Australian Open.
The world number one enters round two of immigration detention.
Free, free the refugees!
Novak Djokovic driven into the Park Hotel, where he'll be held alongside asylum seekers.
Free, free the refugees!
Hours earlier, this international media scrum waited outside his lawyer's office, as inside a plan was made to fight deportation in the federal court. In cancelling the world number one's visa, the immigration minister agreed he was unlikely to spread COVID, but said he did pose a risk to public health and order. Alex Hawke claimed allowing Djokovic to stay in Australia may foster anti-vaccination sentiment, leading to others refusing to be vaccinated or not getting booster shots. He also argued his presence may encourage people to disregard public health advice and lead to civil unrest through rallies and protests, potentially super spreader events. Like this today. Anti-vaxxers and Serbian flags among this crowd outside Rod Laver Arena, also targeting media outlets in Melbourne and Sydney. In documents that followed the minister's announcement, the tennis star's lawyer returns serve, calling his arguments illogical, irrational and unreasonable, adding that deporting Djokovic for comments he made 2 years ago may also foster anti-vaccination sentiment. They claimed it wasn't open to the minister to find him a threat to public order because there was no evidence. That reasoning has also surprised immigration experts.
It has introduced a completely new ground that it has never mentioned before. If that was the government's concern, why didn't it raise that with Mr Djokovic when it granted him a visa?
The reigning champ's father shared this message on social media, telling the tennis superstar to hold on. Some support too from fellow players.
I think it's not very fair for a person to come here and not be able to play.
I think it's an unfortunate situation. Like, he's such a great player and it's kind of sad that some people might remember him in this way.
And no sympathy from others.
I think that all this could have been avoided, like we've all done by getting vaccinated.
They can agree it's been an unwanted distraction.
It feels like, it's taken away from us competitors who just want to start.
Not enough tennis has been talked about in the last couple of weeks, which is a shame.
If he's playing, finally, okay. If he's not playing, Australian Open will be a great Australian Open with or without him.
Hopefully it's not going to tarnish, the rest of the Australian Open.
Similar hopes to the state government.
This event is so much bigger than any one person.
The ball now in the federal court's court.
Our reporters are standing by across the city tonight. First to Tegan Dolling in Carlton. Tegan, Djokovic will spend the night there.
He will, Blake. This is actually night number 5 in immigration for Novak Djokovic. He was brought back here at around 3 o'clock this afternoon, where he was met by a small group of protesters who did yell at the car as it was driven into the underground car park. But you might be able to see there's only around 3 or 4, a very small handful that are still here at the moment as we enter what's going to be a very anxious evening for the world number one. Blake?
All right, Tegan, thank you. Now to court reporter Estelle Griepink, who is outside the federal court for us. Estelle, tomorrow's legal showdown will be watched around the world.
Blake, the case will return here to the federal court at 9:30 tomorrow morning. It'll also be streamed on YouTube Live. Novak Djokovic's lawyers have requested this is heard in front of a full court. That's 3 judges instead of 1. But that could make it very difficult for either party to appeal a court decision. Whether or not this brings an end to this long-running saga is anyone's guess.
After 4 days of hard-fought freedom, the world number 1 was delivered a Friday evening blow. An email informing his legal team a decision has now been made to cancel Mr Djokovic's visa.
The government lost the previous court case because it was shown to have not done their homework properly. They're doing their best this time to get it right.
The bombshell email was sent at 5:46 last night. By 8:45, his lawyers were before a judge seeking a hearing to reverse the decision. Those proceedings finishing after 11 o'clock. Djokovic was then ordered to attend an immigration interview at 8 a.m. before a preliminary federal court hearing at 10:15 this morning. But that court session was brief. Tomorrow's set to be the true showdown.
My pretty confident guess is he's going to get a temporary injunction. He only has to show that there's a serious case to be tried. Once he proves that, he'll easily get over the second hurdle.
Every twist and turn of the case being watched around the world.
The world number 1 is facing deportation again.
Novak Djokovic's visa was cancelled.
And by world leaders. The Serbian president on social media accusing our Prime Minister of harassing and mistreating his nation's biggest star. Locals in Djokovic's home city of Belgrade reluctant to accept their hero might be coming home early.
So many Grand Slams. He won Melbourne 9 times and the rest, and they kick him out. They're out of their minds.
Estelle Greepink, 7 News.
Now to Mitch Cleary at Melbourne Park. Mitch, all that organisers can do now is watch and wait.
Well, Blake, everyone is holding their breath on tomorrow's outcome. Djokovic is still scheduled to play against countryman Miomir Kecmanovic on Monday. And if he's cleared to do so, we'll have missed a crucial day of preparation today after 5 straight days of training on court at Rod Laver Arena. If he is sent home, the biggest beneficiary will be 5th-ranked Russian Andrei Rublev, who will take Djokovic's spot as the vacant number 1 seed. Blake?
All right, Mitch Cleary at Melbourne Park. Thank you. More than 1,000 Victorians are now in hospital with coronavirus, and we're told Victoria is still a long way away from seeing any stable trend with case numbers. It hasn't deterred partygoers ignoring the rules, dancing the night away.
Dancing is banned at nightclubs in Victoria. But that didn't stop the party at some of Melbourne's venues last night, despite concerns dance floors can create super-spreading events.
Let me think of a polite form of words I can use. I mean, really, like we've been at this for 2 years. There are penalties.
This illegal behaviour as our COVID hospital numbers surge. More than 1,000 Victorians now receiving care.
It's the highest number we've seen in the entire pandemic.
It's adding even more strain to our hospitals in crisis, despite rules changing to allow healthcare workers to return even if they're a close contact. 5,700 remain in isolation. Aged care homes also under increased pressure.
We're seeing active cases in probably around 1/4 to 1/3 of our aged care facilities at the moment.
Nationally, 1,100 aged care homes have outbreaks. Residents are being forced to stay in their rooms, and there's even calls to bring in the army.
We're arguing to government that we can't keep doing this to older people.
25,526 new cases have been recorded in Victoria today. And if we look back to January 1, our case numbers have exploded. More than 400,000 Victorians have been diagnosed with COVID-19 so far this year. And that doesn't include results for some of the 100,000 patients who received this text yesterday. Your COVID-19 PCR sample is no longer suitable for processing and no result can be provided.
I apologise, but I think it does allow us to move forward more confidently.
We've got to fix this.
23 more people with COVID have died, including 6 from late last year.
It's going to go up.
Epidemiologists say it's never been more important to get a booster shot.
I've got 33,000 appointments available over the coming couple of weeks.
The Australian Council of Trade Unions says nationally workers at Tay's abattoirs are being forced to keep working even with COVID. The company is one of Woolworths' major suppliers.
When people go shopping into Woolies, they look for Australian made. But do you think they know or they're happy about the fact that COVID positive workers are in the Woolworths supply chain?
Late today, Woolworths advised this will stop from Monday.
And Sarah, we can expect an announcement on more COVID treatment soon.
Yes, Blake, Chief Medical Officer Paul Kelly says an announcement on oral treatments for COVID-19 is imminent. Medications are currently being reviewed by the Therapeutic Goods Administration. Professor Kelly says it should provide Australians with signs of hope during the Omicron outbreak, and we'll know more in a few days. Blake?
Sarah Jones in the newsroom, thank you. The border between Queensland and New South Wales has come down for the first time in more than a year. The barricades, police and checkpoints are no longer needed after the rules changed at 1 o'clock this morning. Anyone is free to enter Queensland without a negative test, regardless of whether they are vaccinated or not. Health officials are not ruling out the need for a fourth shot to combat Omicron and any future variants. Australia is now officially one of the most vaccinated nations in the world. 95% of those aged over 16 are double-dosed.
With just over half of those eligible now boasting a booster, attention is already turning to a fourth shot.
That's absolutely in front of Otago now.
The government's expert advisory group says it's too early to tell if a second booster shot will be needed.
They will absolutely deliberate on fourth or subsequent doses.
Denmark and Chile have already begun administering fourth doses to high-risk members of the community, joining Israel, who have rolled out a second booster shot to 450,000 healthcare workers and people over 60. But some researchers are concerned too many shots in a short space of time could interfere with the body's own defence mechanisms.
Whether they would in fact benefit from having further doses or whether that's really not going to make a difference.
Not wanting to be caught in a supply crisis for a second time, the government has already secured enough vaccines that should Otago give a second booster shot the green light, the rollout is ready to go.
We wanted to make sure that we had spare capacity and the ability to cover.
With even more potentially on the way.
We are seeing good progress on Novavax with recent fresh data.
The TGA said to make a decision on approval in the next 10 days, with 51 million doses already locked in. Taylor Aiken, 7 News.
There are tributes tonight for a mother and her 6-year-old daughter killed in a stabbing in Melbourne's north. Heartbroken friends say they were blindsided by the tragedy and are rallying to support the little girl who escaped.
A moment of silence for 2 lives taken far too soon. Poonam Sharma and her 6-year-old daughter were stabbed to death inside this Mill Park home on Thursday night. Dozens of flowers, toys and heartfelt cards have been laid on the front lawn. Friends and family holding back tears, sharing memories of what they described as a loving family.
She was a lovely mother, very hardworking, always ready to be there for you. She was born here, never thought that she will be gone here.
Joined by strangers today, all in utter disbelief.
It's not right that this has happened.
Joanna and Adi Minhas were friends with Poonam for more than 11 years.
She
loved her husband,
her family.
She loved her daughters. Yeah, it meant everything to her.
They've started a GoFundMe, raising funds for 10-year-old Angela, who miraculously managed to escape as Poonam's grieving parents prepare to travel from India to say their goodbyes.
During such a difficult time, I think it would make things just slightly easier to cope.
Police allege husband and father Prabal Sharma was behind the attack before injuring himself. Family and friends are desperately waiting for answers today as they begin to come to terms with this tragedy. Prabal Sharma's still far too ill to speak with detectives. He remains in hospital. Rochelle Brown, 7 News.
Boris Johnson has apologised to the Queen after more allegations of illegal lockdown parties at 10 Downing Street. Staff in the British Prime Minister's office held 2 gatherings on the eve of Prince Philip's funeral, prompting more MPs to call for Mr Johnson to go.
Setting an example, the Queen sitting alone farewelling her husband of 73 years. As Her Majesty followed the rules and Britain mourned last April, Boris Johnson's staff were reportedly partying.
It's an absolute disgrace, and I really can't see how Boris Johnson can possibly look the Queen in the eye again. He's supposed to see her every week. What will he say next time he sees her?
Two parties were held on the eve of Prince Philip's funeral. One a farewell for a press secretary who's now an editor at London's Sun newspaper. There was dancing, music, alcohol. One staffer was sent to a nearby shop with a suitcase to buy more wine. Boris Johnson wasn't there, but his son's backyard swing was apparently damaged. Now the Prime Minister's office has apologised to the Queen. It's deeply regrettable that this took place at a time of national mourning. Boris Johnson is isolating. One of his family members has COVID. 14 alleged lockdown gatherings at Number 10 are now the subject of a civil service investigation. Outside his office today, public derision. There's more backbenchers lined up, calling for him to go.
He's lost his moral authority to lead the country.
Publicly, Boris Johnson retains the confidence of his entire cabinet, but there's varying degrees of vocal support. His biggest threat could come from next door at Number 11, the office of the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak. His so far limited support for Boris Johnson is considered lukewarm. The other potential leadership candidate, Foreign Secretary Liz Truss. In London, Hugh Whitfield, 7 News.
2,000 swimmers hit the water at Portsea this afternoon for the annual Swim Classic. They started near the pier and made their way to the quarantine station. It comes after last weekend's Lawn Pier to Pub was cancelled because too many volunteers were in isolation. England continues to be its own worst enemy. Andrew McCormack, Ricky Ponting has savaged a brain fade from one tourist in particular.
Yeah, he certainly has, Blake. Same old story for the old enemy. Nathan Lyon gave the Hobart locals plenty of catching practice on the hill as a returning opener was burned by his partner.
Well, late call and a direct hit. Wow, that is extraordinary.
Plus, a world number one we could all get behind. Ash Barty outlines her path to Oz Open glory as the forgotten man of Aussie tennis roars back to life. A Saints champion returns to Victoria Park, while a runaway demon puts in a contender for goal of the year. And Blake, the big names were back for the Melbourne Stars, but it didn't help too much in Adelaide. More on that shortly.
See you for sports soon, Macca. Thank you. We have new details tonight on a double shooting in Bayside, Melbourne. Next on 7 News, neighbours reveal what started the dispute. Also, a massive search underway to find a missing 9-year-old girl. Prince Charles dodges questions over his brother's legal plight.
Plus, Melbourne's long-awaited drone show finally set to debut. Lord Mayor Sally Capp joins me live soon.
Thanks on, and later a tribute to a footy scribe who always told us to keep on punching. There's been an arrest over a dramatic incident on Chapel Street. A man was seen throwing bottles out of a window onto the street. He then allegedly threatened police before they took him into custody. The 45-year-old has been taken to hospital for assessment. We have new details tonight on a deadly shooting in Mordialloc. A witness has told 7 News the gunman got angry during an argument over watering the garden before allegedly opening fire, killing 2 of his neighbours.
A neighbourly social gathering turned deadly. A 72-year-old man now charged with murdering 2 neighbours.
Just completely in a state of shock.
Pete witnessed the tragedy and says it started with an argument over the use of a garden tap.
Well, the victim turned off the tap a couple of times and Rodney took umbrage to that.
The alleged gunman who lives in the complex has also been the groundskeeper for 11 years and likes his garden well watered.
Well, he disappeared back into his unit and re-emerged about a minute later, holding the weapon, and took careful aim and fired.
Neighbour Peter helped drag one of the victims to safety inside another unit.
We wanted to get him under shelter as quickly as possible, thinking that was probably it was over at that point. But unfortunately it wasn't.
He says the gunman then returned and fired again, this time shooting another neighbour before aiming at police. Many of the residents here live alone and have since gone to be with family and friends, too frightened to stay after the horrific event. The accused gunman faced court last night and has been remanded in custody.
It could have been anyone. 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 anyone within reach.
Kathleen O'Connor, 7 News.
The search for a missing 9-year-old girl in the Blue Mountains has entered its second day. Charlize Mutton is there on holiday with her mum and was reported missing yesterday morning. Her mother's partner has been questioned by police and his car taken for forensic examination.
A 31-year-old man from this location has been helping us with our inquiries, and at that stage I don't want to go into any specifics.
SES crews, police divers and even hikers on holiday joining the search effort. Prince Charles is refusing to comment on the future of his brother Andrew. The future king ignored questions during an engagement in Scotland.
Your Royal Highness, can I ask your view on your brother's position, Prince Andrew?
Introduce you, please.
How do you view it?
Long may I present his Royal
Very
Highness.
nice to see you again.
It's believed Charles and son William were instrumental in the decision to strip Andrew of his royal patronages and military titles, both said to be furious. Prince Andrew is now effectively exiled by the royal family as allegations of sexual assault head towards a civil trial. And the Duke of York's one-time friend, now convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell, will learn her fate in June. A court today set a sentencing date for the 28th. Pending an appeal. Maxwell's lawyers want her conviction overturned and a new trial set after a juror failed to disclose he is a victim of sexual assault. A colourful drone show will finally light up Docklands after it was grounded at the 11th hour on New Year's Eve. Sonia Marinelli joins us live from Victoria Harbour. Son, how's the weather looking?
Oh, well, Blake, right now, just a little bit cloudy, but really nice. And the night should stay dry. And that is great news because in just a few hours' time, Docklands will be transformed by a swarm of colourful drones. I'm joined by Lord Mayor Sally Capp. And Sally, what can we expect tonight?
Well, we can expect to see the sky above Docklands absolutely lit up with iconic Melbourne scenes and also the story of the creation of the platypus. The light show is accompanied by 2 stories brought to us by wonderful local talent, Ren Alessandra and Mandy Nicholson. There's also music. There's really something for everybody this evening here at Docklands. It's the first of its kind in Australia and we really recommend that everybody come down.
So before we head down, what do we need to know? Do we need to buy a ticket?
No tickets are required. It's a completely free community event brought to you by the City of Melbourne and the state government. Of course, we've been waiting for this show, so we're encouraging everybody to, of course, be COVID safe, do the right thing with social distancing, mask wearing. But really, this is about having some fun and coming and seeing a spectacular show.
I can imagine for you it'll be wonderful to finally see the show up and off the ground.
I can't wait.
Wonderful. And Blake, you can catch all of the excitement here at Victoria Harbour twice a night until the end of January. I'll be back with the weather and your forecast after sport.
Son, thank you, and thank you to the Lord Mayor. Speed limits across the state are set to be slashed. Next, why a country road trip could become a whole lot longer. Also, fighting diabetes. The new Melbourne hub leading a collective effort to find new treatments. The movie Set Shooting Probe, find out what Alec Baldwin's handed over to American authorities. And the growing trend of cargo looters pilfering packages meant to be sent around the world. Speed limits on roads across country Victoria are set to be slashed by as much as 30 kilometres an hour. The state government is reviewing limits on rural roads with the prospect some could be trimmed from as high as 110 k's an hour down to 80. It's aimed at lowering the road toll, but the opposition claims it's the wrong strategy.
The government keep wanting to reduce limits. What they should be doing on regional roads is fix the roads.
More roads are also set to have variable speed limits, allowing them to be adjusted depending on the conditions. There's a rent lifeline for battling businesses. The state government has announced it's extending a relief scheme for small and medium-sized operators who have lost trade due to COVID-19. The policy forces landlords to provide tenants with rental discounts based on how much their turnover is down. The scheme will be extended until mid-March. Melbourne is about to become the Australian epicentre for diabetes research. Health professionals across the country will collaborate and contribute to the new National Research Centre set to revolutionise the way doctors diagnose and treat the illness.
Almost 2 million Australians live with diabetes.
It doesn't just kill a lot of people, it causes some very serious side effects.
Now our greatest medical minds are joining forces. Scientists, doctors, community groups and engineers are beginning a series of medical trials in hospitals across the country. Their mission, to better detect and treat issues associated with the illness, including kidney disease, amputation and blindness.
Many people with diabetes unfortunately end up with these acute complications which have a major significant impact on their quality of life.
The data will then be sent back for analysis at a new hub in Melbourne, the Australian Centre for Accelerating Diabetes Innovation, run by Melbourne University researchers.
To be able to prevent hospital admissions, to keep people healthy and safe at home.
$10 million in federal taxpayers' money has made it happen.
We're building on everyone's knowledge and we're bringing all these professionals together that can actually help people like myself.
One of the main goals of the new research facility is to reduce pressure on the health system. It costs taxpayers $4.5 billion a year to care for hospital patients suffering diabetes-related illnesses.
It's one of our greatest health problems and it doesn't get enough attention, and there can't be too much research to try and find the answers.
Kathleen O'Connor, 7 News.
Leading epidemiologist Professor Mary Louise McLaws has revealed she's been diagnosed with a brain tumour. In a tweet, she says it was discovered after she had a severe headache on Thursday and she'll be taking a month's leave to be with her family. Professor McLaws is an advisor to the World Health Organisation and a prominent media commentator on the pandemic. Actor Alec Baldwin has surrendered his mobile phone to police almost a month after a warrant for it was issued. Investigators will pore through texts, emails, calls and web history related to the October fatal shooting on the set of his movie Rust. Police say Baldwin personally handed over his phone and password at a station near his New York home. Any relevant data will be given to investigators in New Mexico. A man's rampage in a backhoe has ended with a police shooting in New Jersey. The 20-year-old crushed cars, hit police vehicles, damaged homes and trees across a New Jersey neighbourhood. Police chased him for more than half an hour, eventually opening fire and killing him at the scene. These pictures were released by the state's Attorney General, who is investigating the deadly use of force. North Korea claims it's test-launched ballistic missiles from a train. State media released new images seen as the latest posturing against the United States. It came only hours after the US imposed new sanctions over prior missile tests. A gang of cargo looters is snatching packages from trains, taking what they want and leaving the rest on the rail line. So far, police seem powerless to stop it, and at least one major freight company says theft is now so bad their trains might bypass Los Angeles altogether.
It looks like a rubbish tip, but this is an active train line in downtown Los Angeles. Thousands of boxes tossed across the tracks, the mess the result of looting, thieves raiding cargo carriages full of packages that were due to be delivered to people all over the US.
I'm definitely surprised at the fact that there's open boxes and there's nothing in there and there's no people to be found. And it almost seemed like a mystery.
It was surprising to just be able to get the train open, the train unlocked. I've never seen such madness before. Yeah, it's shocking.
Cameras caught this man running off the track with a bag. Here, an officer who works for the freight line chases after two people who were allegedly rummaging through boxes. It's understood that thieves target the trains when they've stopped to unload or they've been delayed. The mess here is absolutely staggering, but it's not all rubbish. There are still goods, items here that people have ordered and are waiting for, but the thieves have left them behind, deciding they're not valuable enough to take.
They don't care if the train's moving or not. They jump on the trains, pop the lock and just start grabbing whatever they see.
Some are just too big to carry, others simply discarded. The tracks are patrolled by the freight company's police officers. They say thefts have gone up 160% over 12 months in LA, and they're now increasing patrols. The LAPD says it only responds if the company asks for help. In the United States, Smiley Hogan, 7 News.
A police car has been rammed in Collingwood. Details next. Plus, Victoria's new fire tankers able to withstand 600 degrees. The radio star taking his station to court. Princess Mary returns to royal duties. And we remember the footy scribe who told us all to keep on punching. A 21-year-old Sunbury man is under police guard in hospital after allegedly ramming a police car. It happened around 2 this morning in the underground car park at the McDonald's on Victoria Street, Collingwood. The 2 police members were not injured. The first of 48 new fire tankers are about to be delivered to CFA stations across the state. The new dual cab heavy tankers will progressively replace existing single cab tankers. The vehicles have a multi-layered crew protection system and can withstand temperatures of more than 600 degrees Celsius during fire burnovers. Training and commissioning on the first 20 units begins next month. A Supreme Court showdown between Triple M Radio and one of its biggest stars begins next month. Lawrence Mooney, known to listeners across the country as the Moon Man, was taken off air last month while still under contract. He is suing parent company Southern Cross Austereo, believed to be alleging a breach of contract. The case begins February 3 in Sydney. Princess Mary has returned to public life after being struck down with COVID. She was joined by husband Crown Prince Frederick and the rest of the Danish royal family to celebrate Queen Margaret's Golden Jubilee. The Aussie-born princess contracted the virus in December. Plans to celebrate the Queen's 50 years on the throne have been scaled back because of the pandemic. The AFL world is mourning one of the game's great characters. Journalist Scott Palmer has died at 84. The larger-than-life sports scribe will be remembered as a media pioneer and for a punchline that is now part of footy folklore.
He coined one of footy's most famous catch cries without ever kicking a goal.
Keep punching.
Scott Palmer blazed a trail as one of the best sports journalists in the game over a career that spanned more than 50 years.
He was one of the original news hounds. If you wanted any news, any gossip on VFL/AFL football, you tuned in on Saturday night to Seven's Big League, and it was Palmer's Punchlines.
From the Sunday Press in the 70s and 80s to the Sunday Herald Sun, Palmer's Punchlines was a part of footy folklore.
The computers behind me, they're lighting up with the big stories from the day's dramatic round of football.
The producers wanted a news hound that could deliver breaking stories within the replay, and there was none better than Scotty.
From the big scoops...
Yes, I was the only media man there tonight, Bruce, and we got it first on Channel 7.
To the smaller yarns.
Hairdressers are getting bookings this week from players, not after a tender or a perm, but they want their feet waxed. The players just don't like getting the sticking plaster taken off their ankles after a match. And, oh, I can see why too.
Part newsbreaker, part showman.
Learnt the secret of this industry pretty quickly. Never take yourself too seriously. Was a pioneer in a lot of things he did. He was a legend.
Palmer passed suddenly this morning after being admitted to hospital on Thursday. He's survived by a wife of 60 years, Lorraine, and children, Jodie and Lincoln.
He was just a good old-fashioned journo and a gun reporter and a bloody good bloke.
Andrew McCormack.
Keep on punching.
7 News.
The Aussie bowlers are delivering again. Andrew McCormack, England's losing momentum.
Blake, just 2 more wickets too. Skipper Pat Cummins has put his side in a commanding position on day 2. Captain to captain once again. Our Aussie Pat comes out on top. Plus, tennis stars on edge waiting for a decision on the top seed and the surprise Aussie in Novak's corner. Chris Goulding's hot form nets him a massive milestone in the NBL, and the Aussie sliding into history just days out from the Winter Games. Welcome back. As the world holds its breath, Novak Djokovic's rivals are no different, waiting for the outcome of his visa saga. Returning to Mitch Cleary at Melbourne Park, and Mitch, the top seed, has a surprise ally.
Andrew, Nick Kyrgios is being one of Djokovic's biggest adversaries over recent years. But speaking on his podcast today, Kyrgios said the fans deserve to see Djokovic play here at the Australian Open. In news just in, an early legal win for Djokovic. Tomorrow's hearing to be heard in front of a full court of 3 judges, as requested by Djokovic's legal team this morning. Today, Rafa Nadal headlined the big names who fronted the camera. Together, they share a storied history in Melbourne.
There's nothing I can say that can do justice to what we've just seen.
But any 2022 Nadal-Djokovic chapter remains on hold as the world #1 prepares for his visa showdown.
No one, even Roger, Novak, myself, Bjorn Borg, who was amazing at his times. Australian Open is much more important than any player.
Equal on 20 slams, and with Federer ruled out after knee surgery, Nadal has a chance to take the all-time crown, but still carries doubts after recent foot troubles and COVID.
Well, I have been very sick during the COVID and taken days to recover, honestly. I didn't play best of 5 since Roland Garros, and I only played 3 matches in the last 6 months.
In Sydney, an old sparring partner was hitting his straps to book a final berth.
So that's a big win for the former world number 1, Andy Murray.
It's already been a great week for me, big progress from anything I'd done in the last year or so to string 4 matches together like this.
Australian Tanasi Kokonakis with an Adelaide boil-over through to the decider. Aussie Alex de Minaur to join him in Melbourne, backfiring after a tough 2021.
There's no secret that last year I had a little bit of a slump after COVID. Only positive vibes going into 2022.
Daniil Medvedev facing the prospect of being the new top seed.
I need to win 6 matches before this, and it would not change much my preparation for the tournament itself or for any match.
World number 1 Ash Barty aware of the pressure that comes aiming to snap a 44-year Australian drought.
Yeah, I do, but I can't do any more than I can try. That's all I can do, and if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen.
On track to meet defending champion Naomi Osaka in the 4th round. Not that she wants to know.
Please don't tell me. Because I'm the type of person that I don't look at the draw.
Mitch Cleary, 7 News.
To cricket, and Australia's bowlers are hunting English wickets under lights on night 2 of the 5th Ashes Test. England is fighting to recover from a horror start, chasing Australia's first innings of 303, set up by Travis Head's scintillating century last night.
The great Tassie jailbreak. From 3 for 12, Travis Head bookended this Ashes series with a second blistering, match-turning ton.
Slayed. Absolutely pounded.
What a recovery from COVID. With Cameron Green in cahoots, Head's counter-attack floored England. The faith from Captain Cummins to play his way has unleashed a Gilchrist-like weapon in the middle order.
Well, you won't see many better than that.
I'm disappointed that I wasn't able to go on and get a big score. I felt like I had earned the right and worked really hard to get to that position.
He fell, a ball after reaching 3 figures, and Green holed out for 74, a glimmer for England when the rain intervened at 6 for 241. In the sunshine today...
Stop moving the robot!
A broadside, a little dose of stark reality, just 3 for the promoted budding all-rounder, 8 for 252 when Cummins came and went.
This in the air, and he is taken.
Watching Nathan Lyons swing the willows, one of cricket's guilty pleasures.
Now this one has gone sky high, but it's gone long as well.
Each of his 3 sixes matched Warner, Khawaja and Smith combined. The big convincing knock still eludes Alex Carey, but 303 after the start is big.
Bowled him.
Especially against this English team.
Well, late call. And a direct hit.
Rory Burns run out in the 2nd over for a duck. 2 for 29 when Captain Pat struck.
Oh, and there is a catch.
After dinner... proof even Paddy isn't perfect. Not reviewing gave Milan a life as England hoped for Joe Root to drag them out of trouble yet again.
Well, Milan's on his way.
Milan went, then Cummins took the huge wicket of his rival skipper. Matt Carmichael, 7 News.
The Melbourne Stars' Big Bash final hopes are now out of their own hands after a disappointing loss to the Strikers. Glenn Maxwell had a promising start but was bowled for 16 by Henry Thornton, who finished the day with 4 wickets.
He likes to get the big star batsman. And there is no bigger star.
Hilton Cartwright top scored with 49, but the Stars fell 24 runs short of the 156-run target and now must win at least both their final 2 games of the season. Collingwood has made it 2 from 2 to start the AFLW season. Saints champion Nicky Winmar returned to Victoria Park to present several Saints their debutant jumpers, but the Magpies were in control from start to finish.
Could have run into an open goal. Instead, she just slams it.
At Punt Road, a blistering second turn helped the D's to a 16-point victory over Richmond last night, including this contender for Goal of the Year from Alyssa Bennett.
She backs her pace in, takes 2 bounces, runs to 30. This will be a wonderful goal. Coast to coast. post footy from the D's.
It's going to be hard to beat for goal of the year, that one. Melbourne have won 7 of their past 8 games and they remain hot premiership favourites. Melbourne United's Chris Goulding has made history, reaching 5,000 NBL points in a hard-fought win over the New Zealand Breakers in Tasmania.
Hand in the face, try stopping that.
You can't.
The final score 89-78. Both teams will back up again on Sunday, facing the Illawarra Hawks and the Sydney Kings. Hot favourite Coolangatta has lived up to the hype on the Gold Coast after a big win in the 2-year-old classic at the Magic Millions, netting $2 million in prize money.
She's the hottest girl on the Goldie. She beat Russian Conquest, 3rd stiff cat.
In the 3-year-old Guineas, King of Sparta upstaged the field, also taking home a cool $2 million prize money. And another Aussie is shining on the world stage just 20 days out from the Winter Olympics. Brisbane's Jackie Narracott has become the first Australian to win World Cup gold in skeleton racing or any sliding event in Switzerland.
It's Jackie Narracott wins her first ever World Cup here in St. Moritz.
There are no words. It's a perfect day in a perfect place. Let's go to Beijing.
Oh, good on her. The 31-year-old beat out new world champion Kim Boss for gold. Seven will, of course, have all the action from Beijing in around 20 days' time, live and free. Blake, that's all for sport.
Macca, thank you very much. Sonia Marinelli is standing by alongside Victoria Harbour, where in just a few hours, a swarm of colourful drones will take to the sky. Sonia, you look like you have a pretty good vantage point there.
I picked a good spot, Blake, but I am assured anywhere along Harbour Esplanade will be a great vantage point to see tonight's light show, and it's smooth sailing on the weatherfront too. I'll have the details next. Good evening. You might find it's feeling a little more comfortable tonight, not as humid, and that's because it is a little bit cooler. In fact, it's a great night for a light show. It kicks off here at Victoria Harbour tonight. A swarm of coloured drones will take to the sky for an 8-minute show that has been choreographed to music. It will run twice a night at 9:30 and 10:30 right through until the end of January. We had a light show of a different kind overnight. Intense storms tracked over the city and out to eastern Victoria in the early hours of the morning. They died down around 6 a.m. So today has been settled in the city. We hit a high of 24 degrees. That's 8 degrees cooler than yesterday. So not as muggy today, and we are sitting very comfortably this evening in the low 20s around Melbourne and Geelong. So we had clearing storms and showers this morning across southern Victoria, then a mostly dry day, and the only storms this afternoon were scattered over the northeast ranges. Taking a look at the national picture, and the remnants of ex-tropical cyclone Tiffany will continue to track south and may link up with a low pressure trough lying over southeast Australia later this week, and that's likely to bring another round of tropical stormy weather here to Victoria. But for now, the humidity is taking a break with a warmer and dry day across the state tomorrow. Morning cloud in the south breaking up, so we'll all be enjoying lots of sunshine through the afternoon. The storm risk is mostly cleared with just a slight chance of a shower in far east Gippsland. Closer in and around Melbourne, our Sunday is looking really good. We'll start early under cloud, but by mid-morning it's all gone, and we'll spend the rest of the day out in the sunshine. It is warmer than today and should be really pleasant as most spots head for the high 20s and low 30s. It is 28 degrees for those in Geelong tomorrow, but 31 in Scoresby. And if you're spending the day in the city, we'll start on a low of 17 degrees, then a warm top of 29. Looking ahead, we'll dip down to 23 degrees on Monday, but with sunshine. We'll be under cloud for most of Tuesday, but the city should stay dry throughout the day, and it is a little cooler, a top of 21. We're back on a warming trend from the middle of the week. We rise to 25 degrees on Wednesday, 28 by Thursday, then humid air settles in on Friday, and it could turn stormy as we head towards the weekend. But it is staying dry tonight for the drones here in Docklands, and if it is anything like we've seen overseas, Blake, it is set to be a fantastic show. Definitely worth coming down to check it out.
All right, Sonia Marinelli on the harbour there. Thank you very much. That is 7 News. Thanks for making us part of your Saturday. Stay with us as we head back to the cricket in Hobart. From the Melbourne News team, good night.